I missed. Oh. Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Project Quarantine. This is episode 4, and today, during this episode, we will do the final construction of the mask, which means the final materials, as well as getting a base layer of paint. We're not going to do any detailing. That'll be saved for next episode. But yeah, before we get into a time lapse and all that fun stuff, I've done a little bit of stuff off camera, and that's testing out different materials. So at the beginning, you saw that I had a bunch of different materials, like the thick foam, the thin foam, and then last episode you saw like cardstock that I made the prototype out of. So let me quickly show you the materials that I have and what their pros and cons are. And with that, I've cut out the most complicated pattern piece for the mask, which is a jaw piece. So let's start with this stuff. So this is the stuff that the prototype was made out of. It folds nicely. We know that it works because it is what the prototype was made out of. But the thing with this stuff is that it's very flimsy. It's literally paper. It's very bendy. It would be hard to detail, and I don't like the texture of it. It's got a glossy-ish finish. It's hard to see on the camera, but it is glossy-ish. So I think it's great for prototyping and patterning, but not so great for the final build. The next thing I tried was what I had originally planned to go with, which was this thick foam, which is great, and I like this stuff, and I might still use it, but the thing with this stuff is that it is very difficult to fold. Because it is so thick, folding it, you get these this stuff that doesn't fold well, and it like bunches up, and that is not what I want the side of the face to look like. So yeah, this stuff is great, but not for this. For bigger pieces, yes, like for bigger pieces of armor and stuff, definitely good. The next thing I tried was this thin foam, which is what I've made masks and stuff out of in the past, and it is very good at bending and holding a shape, and I know this material very well. Sorry, it's hard. It is also very flimsy because, you know, it's a thin foam, but it's easy to paint, nice to detail, and I know it can come out well in the final product. The last thing that I tried was cardboard, which looks like this. I gotta say, out of everything, cardboard I think is the way to go, because first of all, you get the nice sharp angles when you bend cardboard. You get these straight lines, and I think that for the base of the mask, for just the structure of it, this is gonna be the way to go. Cardboard is gonna be what we want to do. It also takes well to hot glue. It takes well to paint, and I can cover it with the thinner stuff in case I want to do details. So yeah, with that, I think we should get right into the time lapse. this thing, and it's actually coming along. It's obviously not done yet, but I will show you what I do have, which is this. Let me hold it up so you can actually see it. So here is the top part. So I've covered the sides in the foam, and then I detailed and painted the eyepiece. So it's got like scuff marks on it, right? It's got all that battle damage goodness, and that sits right there. There you go. And then all the electronics are in there, so it actually does light up, and I think it looks really good with the painting on the sides. So yeah, that's what I've done. So we've made a lot of progress, and I think I'm gonna go to bed tonight because it's very late, and I do have school tomorrow. So tomorrow we will just keep going. Hello, welcome back. Another day has gone by, more classes. I have been working and working and working to get this thing covered with the foam so that we can start detailing it and doing battle damage and painting it and all that good stuff. And I am finally done covering this thing with foam. You don't understand how long this took me. Oh my god. But it is done. It is finished. It is completely covered with foam. All the little details, everything is in there. I feel so good. It feels good. There are some crazy patterns that I made for this thing. Like, if you look at the front, all the way here, coming down and around this center piece and up top, that's all one pattern. That's all this big pattern, which I had to figure out what it was, and see it's a bunch of pieces. But yeah, so that's finally done. In other news, I showed this when I was gathering my materials in like episode 1, and I opened it up and it was super dry, and I was like, oh no, I can't use it. But I put some water in it, and it's working good now, which is great because it's kind of like you rub it on, and it gives a really nice texture and color. So the next thing is to prime it, give it a base coat, which I'll probably do. Ooh, so camera, fix yourself. Which I'll probably do off camera because that's going to be spray paint. I'm going to spray paint the whole thing black, so that the colors pop, but also so there's an undercoat, so that if I do use rub and buff and it doesn't coat everything, you have black underneath, so it looks tarnished, as opposed to white or blue underneath, which would not. So yeah, that's the next thing, and I will come back as soon as that's done. Hiya, it's the next day, and I'm back. Still haven't spray painted the mask, but that's okay, because I have somewhat solved my paint problem. Remember before, I did not have enough paint to paint the whole mask, but I have braved the outdoors, hence the sunglasses. Actually, let me take those off. Oh god, my hair looks nasty. I have braved the outdoors and gotten paints. Yes, everything has been disinfected. Don't worry. And I wore my mask and my gloves. So we have metallic gold paint, metallic black paint, metallic silver paint, which is the most important one. A bunch of X-Acto knife blades because my box cutter is running out of blades, and I have the base for the X-Acto knife, but I didn't actually have any blades, so I needed some of those, as well as actual rub and buff. This stuff is amazing, and I'm so happy that I have it now. I need to see what they look like, right? And I see if that's what I want, but it's here, and Yay! So, with that said, let me crack open some of this stuff. Open! Says me! Haha, Rub and Buff. A wonderful thing. And I have silver Rub and Buff, which might be interesting for the mask. I have to test it out. Thing number one is to spray paint the mask black, and then spray paint some foam black, and test out all these different things. So, yeah. With that said, I think I am going to finally stick that there. Just finally get it done. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it now. Hello, once again. This still looks unpainted, which it is, and I know you're saying, I thought you said you'd have it be painted by now. God. Yes, I did say that, and where's my time lapse? Things happened. So, first of all, shush. Second of all, those of you who are perceptive and have eyes may notice that this mask doesn't look like it did before. There's a box on the side. There's some thingies right here. There's a grill on the bottom. Basically, I've been detailing because I was like, oh, I'll paint it and then I'll do some details. But what I realized was that all the details that are made of foam need to be painted black as well, so that when we do the Rub and Buff and we do all that stuff, it all, comes out and you can actually see it. So yeah, that's why I haven't painted it yet. I've also been doing a ton of electronics work. Rest in peace, this circuit board. It was a dear friend, and I may or may not have ran it with twice the amount of volts it was supposed to use, but I got another one. I just had an extra, and now we have indicator lights on the side. There's a little button inside the mask that turns on these lights, which have a bunch of different modes, right? And that is that's going to indicate when what the oxygen state is. Of course, it's not actually going to indicate what the oxygen state is, but as long as those two LEDs are on, it'll be like, oh, there's oxygen flowing right to the face mask. And that is just controlled by this little, see that little black dot? That's a button, and that's what controls that. So I should be able to have the mask on, but nothing is touching that button. Speaking of that, I hollowed out a space in here to hold the electronics and the battery, and then those two holes you see are the perfect size for the tube that I use, that I'm going to be using to go into that respirator, and those just come right around the sides. Yep, you know the design. So I soldered up all the electronics and the control circuitry for those blinking lights, and the batteries, that's all in this box. But I'll make it look pretty. So I soldered those up, and then the reason that it took so long was because I thought I could run it all off this single 9-volt battery, which is how this circuit board got blown, because I don't have a 9-volt, or I don't have a voltage regulation, I don't have a VRM basically. And even if I did, I don't have the supplies or the coding experience to actually hook that up and make it run properly. So I need two separate battery packs. One that is the 9-volt for the light, and the other that is the 4.5 volts needed to run that circuit board, which runs these LEDs. Yeah, so all of the logic on that board is actually ripped out of Christmas lights, kind of. But if you run the LEDs in parallel, which is how I have them, it just kind of works for them as well. The blinking and stuff all works for them, which is super nice. I also took these little doodads, right, with the air canisters. I put hoses on the bottom of them. I've just cleaned up the mask a little bit, some of the edges and stuff. But yeah, so you can see some wires in there. It doesn't look like I've done a lot, but I've been working for the past couple hours on this. Mostly it was on the failed electronics, but you know what? I haven't taken any classes in electronics or anything like that. So I'm kind of flying by the seat of my pants. Tomorrow we will paint. I promise. And I'm sorry that you didn't get time lapses of this, but it was a lot of tedious work, which was like doing and then undoing. It was a lot of that, and that's probably pretty boring. So yeah. On another note, I found a leather strap, which could be useful. I found a bunch of these hinges, which I thought could go pretty well, like here. I mean, like there, or up at the top, as like something that can like unhinge the top of it if you need to access something or something like that. I'm not sure whether I'll incorporate those yet or not, but I think it could be interesting. I have, if it'll pop out of here. Oh, no, it's here. I have this button cover that I'm going to put on the inside so that the button isn't, well, so it's just a little nicer. And then I also have been working with some other circuitry. So I had an old plasma ball. Here's the discarded carcass of it. And it didn't work. It was broken. I didn't just tear apart a good plasma ball. It was broken. It didn't work. But what I did get out of it was this nifty little switch right here, which is great. And it works well now, but I spent a good couple hours trying to figure it out. And like, oh, it's an on-off switch. How hard can it be? That's what I thought, until I started. This switch has 5 pins because there were different, I don't know, that's something with the plasma ball. It has 5 output pins, and I was like, okay, I'll just look up the documentation and see how to wire it. I look it up. This switch isn't made anymore. It's like a discontinued product or whatever. So there's like no documentation online, at least not that I could find. So I had to spend a while just testing stuff, like what works on the switch, just testing the output pins. But now that I finally have, where's my 9-volt battery? Here it is. Now that I finally have, I actually have a, hold on, come on, work. I have a toggleable switch, so, and this is hooked up to an LED, don't worry, I'm using a resistor, I'm not gonna blow any more of my LEDs, but that's interesting, in case I wanna rewire the eye to be a toggle, or to be a toggle instead of a momentary switch, or instead of a button, limit switch, what it is now. I have the ability to do that. Technically, I'm using this for another project, but that project is slightly temporary, and I can tear the electronics out of it once I'm done. So that's the update. I've been working, today's a Friday, so I had classes from the morning, starting at 8 a.m. until 3, and then from 3 to now it is 10, with a break for a movie. So the movie was like 2 hours. 3 to 10, that's 5 hours that I've been fiddling with this crap. So yeah, I've definitely been working. There's it's not for lack of trying that the progress on this mask is moving slowly, and I know it's moving slowly, and I'm sorry, but I'm trying to get through every step of this and document the process. Yeah, so I'll come back tomorrow morning with a hopefully either painted mask, or you'll see me painting the mask. You saw that I do have all the paint, so like I'm ready to go. I just need to do it. So yeah, I did it. It's all black now. It's all spray painted. It's done. And I've also done a couple tests of the different paints I have on a piece of black foam board that I also spray painted. So yeah, which means we can time lapse now. Sorry, I don't know what camera is. It's time for a time lapse. It's time to put paint on this thing. Frigging finally. This has been a long time coming, and I'm super excited. I'm ready to go. So with that in mind, let's do it. Hi guys, as you might have just seen from that time lapse, I've been working on this. Yeah, so look at that. Look at it. It's better now. It's only some detailing. This needs to be painted, right? This down here is not done yet. And there's all the things on the sides, and then all the other little details that are gonna get glued on later. But yeah, it's so close, and the eyepiece isn't on yet, and that's gonna make it look better. I promise. In other slightly sadder news, so I have paint all over my hands, and I have a tripod that holds my phone, usually, that I set up for the time lapses. But I tried to take it off with one hand, and I mean, it's cheap, but the plastic bit that usually holds on the phone snapped off. So partially my fault, but so you might get a weird angle for a while until I grab another tripod or another one of these grips that can hold phones. I know that we have another one in our house. I think my dad was using it for a while though, so but that is a lot of progress, and I'm really happy with how it's looking. Actually, I thought, oh, the ribbon buff would make it too bright, but actually it's still good. It's still got a nice darkness to it. Yeah. And the lights, and then the big light on the front, and then there will be pops of color here and there. This dude is gonna add a pop of color. He's gonna go on the side. So yeah, I'm excited. It's so close. We're so close. We're not that close. We have a ways to work, but it's getting there. So I'm gonna take a quick break, and then I'll be back. We're just working on it, I guess. That's what most of these are. Just working on it. It is completed. The mask is done, and it sits like that, right on the face. Got the strap in the back. Oh my god, this took so long, but I'm really happy it's done, and I'm really happy with the way it turned out. I'll talk about some things that I would have done different later, but for now, let's just take a quick tour. So, if you start from this side, right on the side here, the switch for the eye, for the lens, for the whatever you want to call it, just an on-off switch. I did away with the this limit switch here, this little button, because I didn't want to have to constantly be holding my side of my head. And when I started to actually fit the electronics in here, run them, I was like, there's not really a good place for that. So I talked about doing this earlier, but now it's just on a switch, which is very nice. These are all now glued in there, so those aren't going to come out. And then, well, let's do the outside. Well, then there's these the lights on the bottom here, which there's a little button just on the inside for those. And there's a bunch of different modes, just because that's the circuit board I had a bunch of different modes. Sorry about this camera angle, by the way. Still trying to get that new tripod. Here, that's probably a little bit better. Let me turn these off. So then on this side, or go back to the side. We have this canister, right? This thing can pop out. It's a little tricky to pop out, but it does come out eventually, right? And that comes into the respirator on the front, which goes onto this side, has another one. Of course, you have the eyepiece, and then the box here on the side is for the all the circuit board that controls those two little LEDs down there. Hold on, let me move my thumb so you can see it. Those two little LEDs, and it has a little cool eye thing on it. Now, if we go to the inside, you'll see on this side, the switch for the the front light is here. Those wires come up and just down to the front, and then the button for the side lights is right here, and then all the wiring there comes from the box and just goes down, so it just sits right here. Most of the actual logic is inside that box. So yeah, I'm really happy with how this thing came out. If I had to do it again, first thing, I would make it easier to see out of, because God, this mask looks cool, but is hard to see out of. It really is. And secondly, the more perceptive of you may have noticed that this is shifted this way just a little bit. And that's just because there was some weirdness with patterning where I had to make an allowance. I had to shift it that way, make an allowance, and like shift it one way so that the patterns would actually line up on the actual construction of the mask. So that's not great, but it's not terrible. Like as the whole mask as it isn't bad. Like I'm still really okay with how it turned out. And when it's on the face, you really don't notice it that much, especially because you're at this kind of angle all the time, and so it's not as noticeable. But other than that, I think the detailing with like the damage to the mask went really well. The electronics went pretty as well as they could for my limited knowledge. Yeah, so this is a super fun project. And now it is finally time to end this episode and end the saga of the mask. But does not end the saga of the costume. There is still much to be done on the costume. There's still the entire dress, which is what kicked this thing off. And there is still the bag and all the other little bits. So I'm going to clean my room because it is a disaster, as you have seen already. It's only gotten worse. And catch up with you guys next episode. So with that, finally, an end to Project Quarantine, episode 4. Goodbye.